Hey, GenderqueerChat. Stanley's right behind the camera and he's about to make a racket and topple it. Yeah, sorry about this. Also, cheers. I'm drinking wine. I've taken up wine drinking. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm like a teetotaler. I didn't drink for years and years. And then this year I've discovered wine. But only really, really, really sweet wine. I have an uneducated palate. Okay, so this week's topic was also a viewer question. Someone you are close to refuses to use your preferred pronouns. You would like to speak with them about this. How would you handle this conversation and what would you say? It's an excellent question. And I think my generation is gonna show, because I honestly think that some people are not really capable. I know it's going to be argued this week, I'm sure, by several, that they don't care enough to try. And that's probably true too. If somebody cared a lot, they would try harder. But I also know myself, I'm a very verbal person. Things come out of my mouth before I can think about them. And I do know it takes a lot of training to retrain yourself to say things that come out of your mouth very naturally. But when you've known someone as he your whole life, to suddenly start calling them she is awkward and difficult, and I cut people a lot of slack. Now, I personally don't use any weird pronouns for myself. I prefer they. I love that people on the channel call me they with relative ease, but I don't expect anyone in my personal life to use they. I think that's asking too much. I really do, because of the binary world we live in. I wish the world were different, but it's not. And so I don't expect anybody to use they for me. The other one I was going to say was new pronouns such as ze or here or all the different, there's a bunch of them, the pronouns that are not gender neutral pronouns. I don't care for those at all. I don't like them. They're not natural. They seem very contrived. It seems hard. I understand the language evolves in a way. I'm going to try and tilt this without it. And it's slightly better, but this camera's about to topple, I'm sure. It's on shaky ground. I don't expect people to use made-up words just because somebody kind of wants you to. I'm trying to think of what an example of that might be. I know in, like, a lot of Christians use, my mother, I'll use my mother as an example, who's Catholic. She uses the term Our Lady for Mary, the mother of Jesus. And she always refers to Mary as Our Lady. Now, if she wanted me to start doing that, it's just not the way my brain works. It's not going to come out naturally. I could train myself to do it, but I don't think it's appropriate, because I don't think she's anybody special. And she's not my lady, she's your lady, she's not our lady. But I guess, yeah, this is a rough one. Now, so in light of the fact that I'm a bit of not a linguist, but a verbal person who likes words, and I also acknowledge that it's not an easy thing to do to change your way of thinking and your way of speaking. It is true that if it's someone you care about, you're going to take steps to do better. Now, I know if you guys have been watching this channel for years, I have been very guilty of this. I have used he and she to describe people on this channel who looked like the gender pronoun I was using, and it took me a long time to start using they and to use they comfortably. And that is 100% because I respect them, and I would hope for the same respect in return. And it is the better way, but it's just not. And I'm extremely big in the genderqueer world. Like, this is my life, and I have a hard time with it. I can't even imagine someone who has no concept of what it is or how it works, or I can't imagine asking that of someone. I really can't. Now, for some trans people who have transitioned, it's a lot easier because they're new friends and new people who meet them use the new pronoun. It's the older people that are having the problem. And I would hope that those people would make a larger effort, because of things like transphobia, and because if you use the wrong pronoun in the certain place, that person may suffer violent repercussions because you fucked up, and I get that. I do get that. I guess the question is, you would like to speak to them about this. How would you handle this conversation, and what would you say? Well, I would say, I know it's difficult, I know it's not natural, but when you think of it, and if you think of it, could you try and use these terms that I've given you? The other thing that pops to mind is when a married person changes, typically a woman changes her name to a different last name, and how it's very difficult to start using their last name. But the most of the people will catch on and do it eventually. They'll try and be polite, they'll try and be respectful of her choice, and they will eventually do it. So I mean, it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible, and it's definitely not that hard when society accepts it or wants it to be an easy thing than it is. It's not easy in our society for genderqueer people to use gender-neutral pronouns because society hasn't caught on to that train yet. And I'm hoping, that happens in my lifetime, but it may or it may not. The conversation that I would have would be very polite, and it would be very forgiving, and it would be very much an encouragement and not a demand. I think that's all you can do in this world is encourage people to educate. I would use it as an education, an opportunity for education. And I think, to add a little splash to the conversation, I would probably say something like, I would start to refer to them with the incorrect pronoun and just give them an idea of how it feels. So try and, or say you're talking to your mom and you're referring to your dad. You're saying, well, I'm going to have this conversation with dad, but later when I tell her, it's going to be hard. And your mom's going to get very confused and say, well, your dad's a him. And this opens up the conversation of, how does it feel? It feels very awkward. It's wrong. It's disrespectful when you use the wrong pronoun for another person. And you can even argue, well, I don't know what pronoun he prefers or she prefers. I've never asked her. So, maybe I'm telling you that I prefer this pronoun and I would like for you to try to use it. And I know it's not easy, but take a stab at it. I think that's the best approach for me, would be just the gentle approach. I'm a bit of a house on fire at the best of times, and it's hard for me to be gentle, but I have noticed in life that tends to be what works. I don't think we have any bonus questions this week, but I will say, well, it's Labor Day weekend in North America. I don't know if it's elsewhere in the world. Long weekends, what exactly do you do on long weekends? And I will say I do a whole lot of nothing. I like to go away, but I haven't gone away on long weekends lately. So I'm cleaning the house, and I'm entertaining the notion of going to Niagara Falls and going for a walk around the falls because I love it down there. Okay, catch you guys next week. Have a great week.